Welcome back. Welcome back to everyone. It's really nice, of course, to see you all sticking around because I have a fantastic guest now, Steve Wardle from Kellanova. Really, really nice to have you with us. Welcome to our digital stage.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for this opportunity. Good to see you again.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to have a little interesting fact about you that not many people might know.
Oh my goodness me, now you put me on the spot, haven't you?
Well, we've got to have some fun here, Steve. Come on.
um, okay, interesting fact about me. So I am lucky enough to be a granddad to three fantastic young boys.
Oh, wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Much too
No.
young, Steve. Much too young. Brilliant. So we had some fantastic use cases so far. We've talked about authentication for connected packaging, and we were joined by Gavin. We've just heard from Jorgen Alice, and we've been talking about sustainability and recycling, which of course is a fantastic use case for connected packaging as well. But now we're going to talk about accessibility, which again is a very, very interesting use case. You, of course, are leading that adoption, very much involved. So I'm super excited to hear more about it. Maybe we can just kick off a little bit about what exactly the adoption of the NaviLens program for accessibility is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can move forward a slide, I think the first thing to do is just ground people in what NaviLens is, if we can. So I encourage everybody to, if you haven't already downloaded the NaviLens app, why? But here's your chance now to do it. So you can get it from the App Store or Google Play. And there's two apps available. One is NaviLens Go, and that is meant for low vision or sighted users. And then there's NaviLens app, which is designed for the blind users and can deliver the information audibly. So you can download both apps or one or the other. But just to test it and play with it for yourself, I think is really, really important. And really, the backstory for us in terms of NaviLens is it all started in 2019 when we did some work with children from St. Vincent's, which is a specialist school for the blind and partially sighted near Liverpool in the UK. And these children came into our office and they told us how difficult it was for them to access product information on packaging and challenged us to make our packs more accessible. And when you think about it in terms of, you know, some of the information that we put on our packaging, it's absolutely critical for health. When you think about allergens and specific dietary requirements. So it really needs to be available to absolutely everyone. And you know, there's that saying that feedback is a gift, and that insight, that powerful insight that those children gave us, you know, really made us stop in our tracks. You know, there was a lot of people sort of head scratching, like, why don't we do this? You know, it should be there. It's a relative straightforward thing for us to do, or that's at least what we thought. But you know, it really struck a chord with us. You know, it links very well with our company purpose at Kellanova. Which is about creating better days and a place at the table for everyone. You know, that's really important to us. And that's inspired by the words of our founder, Mr. Kellogg, about doing what's right today means no regrets tomorrow. You know, so it's in our DNA to do that sort of right thing. And that really means clearly communicating our product and brand benefits to the world's 2 billion visually challenged consumers. And I dug into some facts and figures because people always like a number to throw at things. So, you know, there's 1.5 billion people suffer from age-related sight deterioration. 800 million people are colorblind. 217 million have serious. You can tell I'm reading this off a script. Because I'm not that good to remember them all. But 217 million people have serious visual impairments such as glaucoma, retinitis, cataract. There are 36 million people that are legally blind, and 450 million have low written understanding as well. So that's an important aspect to it as well. And what we find is you know, companies talk about inclusivity and inclusion through design, but you know, they're not really showing up in the correct way. You know, they are aspiring to be inclusive, but their packaging and their POS is really visually excluding millions of people. And only 5% of brands have disability insights into their core brand offering. All right, so we decided to do something about it, challenged by these children. And what we did was we decided we would start small and we would see what was possible. So we went and talked to the RNIB in the UK, which is the Royal National Institute for the Blind, to ask them their advice about what we should do. You know, because our sort of default position was, okay, we must go and use Braille because that's, you know, kind of a standard that is around. And when we talked to the RNIB, the amazing fact that came out of that conversation was that actually less than 10% of blind people are using Braille.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So less than 10% actually.
Less than 10% of blind people are using Braille. Okay. And of course, Braille is really limited. So first of all, you know, it's an emboss on the packaging itself, isn't it? But you're limited to the amount of characters that you can put onto the pack. So you would usually get maybe the product title, maybe the weight, maybe a flavor or something like that. But you wouldn't get all the product information about the recipe, the nutrition facts, anything to do with recycling or that sort of volume of information that we have to put on packs today. Okay, so
I suppose Braille is only taught to people who are completely blind as well. And actually, you're talking about a large range of people.
A large, yeah, exactly.
You know, have gotten older and therefore can't see as well. You know,
absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So, you know, the RNIB started to point us in the direction of tech. Yeah, so they pointed us towards NaviLens to say, go and talk to this team called NaviLens, who are absolutely nothing to do with Kellanova, just to make that absolutely clear. We don't own that business or anything. They said, go and talk to NaviLens. These guys are doing some fantastic things with these QR type looking codes to assist people's travel and navigation. So we engaged with NaviLens and really we spoke to those, and they're such an inspirational team. They're led by a guy called Javier Peter, who's one of the most engaging and wonderful people you'll ever meet in your life. I encourage people to pester him on LinkedIn and meet him. He's wonderful. So we talked to them about, you know, obviously we've seen NaviLens around transport systems in Barcelona and Madrid and things like that. Is it possible to make that code smaller and put it onto pack? Okay, and we did some testing, and that's essentially exactly what we did. So we produced this pack here, which was in support with World Sight Day in 2020. And that had the NaviLens code, and it was the first piece of packaging, hence the reason it's on my shelf, standing there proudly. The first piece of packaging, consumer good packaging, to ever have a NaviLens code on. So we're really, really proud of that. Now, this was a very small run in terms of packs. So it was just 10,000 packs, and it was a one retailer exclusive. So it was with the Co-op in the UK.
Okay.
And really, we wanted to test and learn. You know, what was the response of the consumers going to be? And you know, would people understand what it was, how to use it? And of course, for that as well, you also need a bit of a comms plan to go with it. So the RNAB supported it and pushed their sort of membership to promote this, and it was absolutely incredibly well received. So yeah, just to recap on the tech itself, then the NaviLens is a bit like a QR code. You use your smartphone through the app, and they will play back the product information on the pack. But it's smarter than a QR code. It's really, really smarter. Okay, so it can be read from a much bigger distance away.
Yeah.
and it's really quick in terms of the speed that it scans as well. So it's in 1/30th of a second. You can scan in low light. You can scan from a different sort of wide angle and unfocused as well, which is really important, because if you think about how you scan with a QR code, you've got to be pretty much static in terms of being in front of the code, and your camera's got to be still. Okay.
No, exactly.
Sorry, but if you don't know what you're looking for and you're waving your phone around, it's going to be unfocused, and that's a significant difference and USP of NaviLens, is that your standard camera can pick up a NaviLens code much quicker than it can a QR code. All right, so if you're waving it in the general direction of a pack on shelf as you're walking down the store, the app will instantly pick up the NaviLens codes.
Yeah. Which is, as you say, really important, because you're not going to be able to align the things properly if you have an inability to see clearly. That's obvious. So that's really interesting. What about the perception amongst consumers? You said it worked really, really, really well, but it works really well as a technology, is what I can hear. You can scan it from further away. It's much quicker to pick it up. You don't have to be focused. So technology-wise, it works really well. But what about that kind of brand reputation, perception among consumers?
Yeah, so it's always going to be a good story, okay? So this is obviously built out of purpose-driven thing. Yeah, so it's not for commercial gains at all. It's there to make people's lives better. So when we made the public announcement in July 21 that we're going to adopt NaviLens onto our serial portfolio initially, the impact of that announcement was absolutely huge and way beyond our expectations. It actually generated 229 million media impressions. And at the time, that was the second biggest PR story ever for Kellogg's UK. Okay. So in terms of building your brand reputation, it received nothing but positive sentiment. It was 100% positive sentiment, and all the listening that we've done ever since then has always been positive, because we're doing it for the right reasons.
And it's affecting a huge amount of people with the ability to be able to kind of access this information. Is it only on your cereals now?
It's across all of our portfolios now. So we've put it on our Wholesome Snacks products, and also on our Pringles portfolio as well. So last year we launched it on Pringles. So it's growing rapidly. So we've now got it across, I think it's 2,500 artworks. We've printed over a billion pieces of packaging now with NaviLens on. And it's getting traction all over the world as well, which is quite strange, because you think, well, we're only producing this in the UK. In Europe. Yeah.
Europe, it's all of Europe, not just UK.
All of Europe, not just the UK. So you think of Europe and it's 44 countries, but actually we've received scans of our European packs in 137 countries worldwide, because NaviLens will share us some data back. So it doesn't go into first party data. What it does is basically they will provide us the location of the scan in terms of its country. So then we can track, well, where are the scans happening and stuff like that. But I've always found this really strange. 137 countries have scanned our pack. So people are coming to into Europe as travelers, taking packs back with them all across the world. I think Japan is one of our, I think it's in our top 10 of countries scanning our European packs at the moment, which is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really, really amazing. I can imagine it in the travel though, because for example, you buy the Pringles in the airport, and then wherever you end up
that's
is where
that's
you
a
are,
new
right?
one for us. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some questions coming in and some comments coming in for the audience. I'm going to just jump there and then let's see what they're saying. So Ralph says, hi, that one is a really good topic, but as it's new, it still only helps the people with a digital device. How about the elderly people? Why can we not help all people, or do we have to wait until the non-digital people are gone? Not sure if you've got any comments for that, Steve.
It's a fair point. it is absolutely a fair point. And it was only yesterday that I was talking to our legal team about the use of sort of QR codes and NaviLens codes to provide more information to consumers. And can we take stuff off pack? Because, you know, there are so many messages that brands are legally obliged to put on pack. And then, of course, the marketing side of things, they start throwing claims for this and all the rest of it. And really, I guess, you know, when you think about inclusive design, what you want to do is create a cleaner pack that is less attacking people's senses and driving them crazy and not really knowing which message to look at. But legislation is quite far behind, you know, in terms of accessibility through a smartphone. And as the question came there, you know, is it going to take that generation, another generation of people before we consider that actually, yeah, smartphone usage is extremely high, and it's the way forward, and we can predictably say that there will be a Wi-Fi signal available in every supermarket across the world and things like that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would also say we've got a responsibility to make sure that our packaging information is legible on pack for people. There's trade-offs with that in terms of, you know, if we went down to one language per pack, then you're creating more packaging, which has got an environmental consideration to it as well. So, you know, there's different ways to look at this, but ultimately for us, you know, we fully embrace NaviLens and we're advocates for NaviLens, and we openly engage in conversation with other brands to tell them about our experiences of how they can also achieve that sort of NaviLens adoption as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, when people talk about older people, I do think there's a bit of a misconception now of the older people that can't use a phone, especially because of COVID. And I'm not saying everyone can. Of course, there are still non-digital audience and consumers out there, but in terms of the number of people that can actually scan a QR code and use their mobile phone, it's a much higher age than you think. We worked on a project for it's wheels Meals on Wheels, basically, for old people retirement homes, and they scan the QR code and choose the menu items. Now, not everyone can do that, and those who need help, of course, they have the assistance there. But I was quite surprised that would even be something that was relevant for that group. So I do think there are more people than we think that actually know how to scan the QR code, and I think there's things like the menus and bars and all that kind of stuff that's helping that. But it's not everyone, you know, that's
absolutely. I think we've all seen and can take personal experience from the COVID era where, you know, suddenly everybody started to scan QR codes because that was the only way to do certain things and be able to function in public life, wasn't it? You mentioned ordering food through bars and things like that, and the adoption rate of and trust that people now put behind those things is great. And of course, the technology has moved on in terms of cameras in your phones as well. You don't need a specific app to read a QR code anymore. It's embedded in the technology of your phone, and that's also something that the guys at NaviLens have thought of as well, because often having a separate app is a barrier to adoption.
That's the next comment from a
there we go.
Donald is very interested to know when NaviLens will be available on the web without an app download. So tell us.
Yeah, so it's already available. So there is the possibility that you can incorporate a QR code within the middle of a NaviLens code. And if you use your normal camera phone and using the QR side of things, you pick that and it will come up with an option to access the NaviLens information without the need to download the NaviLens app. So that's using app clip technology. So it's only available on Apple phones. But it is possible to do that, so
great. So actually, there are possibilities if you've got an iPhone at the moment. So great, and Android will be coming later.
I can't answer that one.
Yeah, I forget.
Maybe
you're
the guys
not
at
actually
NaviLens,
Steve.
yeah.
Oh, we assume so. All right.
Yeah.
P. Franklin from the audience also has a question for you. Does Steve believe digital press providers are doing enough with ink technology to support Braille? I'm not sure if I know the answer to that. Maybe you do.
Yeah, I'll be honest, and I don't really know a great deal about it. You know, our experience of putting Braille on pack was that it was quite an expensive thing to do, as well as limited in terms of the information that you can put on pack. And obviously, I'm speaking from the traditional sort of method of embossing packaging to produce the Braille. If there is an ink solution to do that, to raise the sort of varnish levels of the material, then that's again something to look into. And we never really stand still, and we're open to looking at everything, be that NaviLens or whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
And we kind of never say this is the only solution that people should be looking at. We just like to be pioneers and push the conversation forward, if you like, to say, well, in our particular use case, we wanted to make our product information accessible, and that's really what absolutely every brand should be doing as a basic requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure that everyone can read your packaging, right? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone like that, because they've said, thanks, Steve, LinkedIn stalker coming up. So
yeah,
someone like
please
that.
do.
Someone like that. I've got a question now, going back to actually thinking about the implementation of the experience of the platform. So of course we know that we've got to integrate this square shape with some colors, and I assume NaviLens provides you with that. So that's got to be integrated into the design. How do you do that? And then how do you ensure that the design of that digital experience once you're in is staying on brand? You know, I'm sure you get my question there.
Yeah, sure. So there's a few things to consider. Obviously, the code has got to be scannable. Yeah, so it's got to be in a place on the packaging that can be seen from somebody walking down the aisle, waving their phone about. So really, it's got to be front of pack if you're trying to, because NaviLens doesn't just provide the product's information, it also provides that sort of navigation function, if you like, so that people using the app can scan and it will direct them to the product that they're looking for. So it will tell them cornflakes is on your left, 2 meters away, 1 meter away, turn left a bit, turn right a bit. So they're navigating to products as well as getting the product information. So two aspects.
It helps you to find the product on the shelf.
Yeah. So if you use the NaviLens app rather than NaviLens Go, so let's say the NaviLens app is for the blind users, it will actually then navigate them to literally to the code itself and the position on the pack. And it's using haptic feedback and vibration through the phone and audio cues to them as well to do that. So consider where to put the code on pack. Now for us, we also consider not just the in-store use, but the home use as well.
Yeah.
So consider about, okay, where's the packaging going to be stored in the home? Is it going to be in a cupboard? And in our case, for cereal packaging, it would probably be side on rather than face on. So we also then said, okay, let's put the NaviLens code on the side of pack. And then when they're picking it up, have they picked it up front face on or the back face? So we also then went full in and we went and put the NaviLens code on the back of pack as well. So for the cereal boxes, that's obviously easy. You've got multiple sides of and faces of the packaging. The size of the code is important as well. So the bigger the code, the further away you can scan it. But the codes, we started with a 30mm code, which could be scanned from over 3 meters away.
As a square?
Yeah. And then the technology's moved on a bit in the last 12 months. So we've now reduced it to a 20mm code. And even
so actually, even being smaller, they're still able to scan it at the same
from over 2 meters away. Yeah, you can still scan it. And even on our Pringles packaging now, we've gone down to a 12mm scan, and that's still scannable from about 1.5 meters away.
Wow. I mean, of course, there's this battle, right? Because as a, you're coming from the design side, so you want it to look as pretty as possible, but having this huge,
Yeah,
QR code or
it's definitely a conversation we've had more than once with brand managers,
yeah,
as they say, can you just move this thing out of the way? I want my brand name to be bigger, and these kind of arguments keep popping up. But it's important for us to do the right thing, so we always engage in that conversation, and wherever possible, we'll compromise.
yeah.
But it's one of the things that we haven't got on the front of pack, which we've been called out on lately, is not having a call to action to go with the code. So it's a code that a lot of people, unless they know what it is, won't have a clue what it is.
Yeah. That's a really interesting one, because we're creating QR code experiences. That's what we do, and a lot of research that we've done around what's the best, is it scan to win, scan to find out more, etc., etc. If we don't put anything, it does affect obviously the number of scans that we get. But you're quite right. I mean, I'm just going to flash it up on screen because you just made me think of something there. You're quite right. There's no call to action on there.
There's no call to action there. Yeah, and that of course is also a barrier, because it's not a QR code, so people may just point their camera at it and not get a response. We do put a call to action on the side of pack. So there is a message about empowering the visually impaired and the NaviLens logo. But that's something that we're probably going to start looking at in the future, about that call to action, because I say it's not just a code for blind people, it can assist other people as well. If you talk about language as well, and people's ability to read, if you can scan it and get it audibly through your phone, NaviLens will also provide the information in whatever language your phone is set to. So that's an important aspect. If you're traveling and you're in a country where the language on pack is not a language that you speak, you can scan your NaviLens phone. If you're English and you're in Greece, and all the text is in Greek, it will read the code in English for you and give you all that product information. So it's doing that translation as well for you as well, which is super important, especially if you've got any sort of allergen or dietary requirements and that sort of thing. So
really, really interesting. So of course, I've got a poll for the audience, and I know the answer for you. So I'm going to put the poll up and let's see what the audience have to say. The question is, how important do you think it is for brands to prioritize accessibility features in their packaging? Now, of course, for you, Steve, I'm going to say you're going to go with strongly agree. But let's see. Yeah, exactly. Let's see what other people think about this as well.
I'm not allowed to vote.
No, you're not allowed to vote. Get your fingers off. Here, I think it's quite interesting. I think as well, it's skewed by whether or not it affects you or somebody that you know as well, right? I think that also has an impact. But also, I think that was really interesting about the language. That means you don't need to have any impairment other than the fact that normally that you're an English person and therefore you don't know any other languages.
We touched on a use case with someone I connected with about the pharmaceutical world. So if you think about the drugs that you buy in terms of your ibuprofen and paracetamol and any other sort of drug you're prescribed, there will be a product information leaflet inside. Which will be super, super tiny text.
On crappy tracing paper.
And crappy tracing paper, And of course, there's an expense and an environmental impact of creating that leaflet as well. And of course, once it's printed once, if you've got any sort of product recall, how are you doing that sort of thing? You can't change that product the information printed on there instantly. But if it was a NaviLens code, you could instantly feed different information to that code. If there was a recall on that product or something like that, you can basically say, don't take this product, take it back to the chemist and all that kind of thing. But the legislation around the pharmaceutical world is
oh yes, I tried to tackle this one about 7 years ago because I was just really annoyed about those bits of paper. Not only is it on that rubbish paper, but also it normally kind of falls out the first time you open it, and then if you ever actually needed to go back to it, you've probably thrown it away. So exactly. I tried So highly regulated.
And anybody that's got reading difficulties is not really going to be reading that information, and some of it is going to be really important, you know. So
yeah, exactly. Right, so going to our poll, you'll be glad to know that 82% actually strongly agree with you, which is good. Which is good. Only, well, 3%, maybe one person or so, has disagreed, and 15% are neutral about it. And as I say, you know, it's obviously going to be affected by whether or not you are or know someone who is in that target group as well, I think.
Absolutely,
But I think this is something important for brands to be thinking about, as my personal opinion, which agrees
definitely,
with
and the other thing I'd just add to that as well is don't be restricted by your thinking about what your brand colours are as well, because obviously in the most cases we use a CMYK coloured NaviLens code.
Yeah.
And there will be some brands that are thinking, well, we don't have CMYK on our packs. You know, we use spot colours or things like that. Now, we gave that challenge to NaviLens as well, because on our Pringles packaging, we don't always use CMYK. A lot of it's spot colours.
Okay.
So we said, okay, and we use things like common cylinders for gravure, and you know, we don't want to add anything to our cost of goods to be able to do this. It's got to be cost neutral and all these kind of things. So the NaviLens team, again, I'll say it again, they're amazing to work with, and they're incredibly innovative. And they developed a NaviLens code that could be 2 colors or 1 color as well. So on our Pringles cans, the NaviLens code is just black only. But if you're a brand that's got a couple of spot colors as your core brand colors, you can integrate those into the NaviLens code as well. So it can almost become a designer looking code as well, aligned with your brand colors. So
yeah, no, really good. There's a couple of comments here. I'm just going to jump to those. Anonymous says, I've met so many people whose lives have been changed by NaviLens. It's by far the best solution of accessible QR codes. So that's really nice. I think as well, we're talking about a product that is such a widely used FMCG product. You know, we're not talking about something where this is only available for a small, this is something that everybody touches a Kellogg's product. I mean, come on.
I hope so.
it just is the way it is, right? And so this is something that is really affecting, you know, or improving lives in that
people's lives, and that's what it's all about. You know, there is no, I'll say it again, there is no commercial gain for us in doing this. It's been done purely out of purpose driven, and that's the way that anybody looking at this kind of tech should be doing it, the right reasons behind it as well. Absolutely.
Paul Gallagher from P&G says, at P&G we already have NaviLens on some Pantene, Campers, Fairy, Daz and Ariel and Lenore packs. Interestingly,
kudos. I mean, there is a slide, I think it's
I'm just getting it. Look at this, look how quick I am.
There you go. So absolutely, the guys at P&G are champions for NaviLens as well. They've applied it to Pantene amongst other brands, but it's been, again, other brands have come and talked to us about it, and we've got it there with Unilever and Coca-Cola on some of their brands, and the guys at Quorn. I think it's on Weetabix now as well. It's the movement's growing, and that's how it's got to be. You know, it's no good if Kellanova come and do this on their own. We need everybody to do it. We need the support of retailers as well, you know, to think about the store experience, navigating around the store. You know, you see the big signs across the top of the aisle that says, oh, this is the aisle for cereal and washing detergents and things like that. But you know, those signs can be have a NaviLens code on as well, so that we can direct people in the right places. So it's that whole sort of user journey through the store for the blind or visually impaired person.
Definitely, and include everyone with the same information. Paul actually is also asking, how do we raise awareness of this amazing solution? Well, what are your answers to that?
Keep doing talks like this.
Keep talking to me.
No, absolutely. You know, I'm an absolute advocate for this, and I talk about it regularly on LinkedIn and stuff. But I would say make sure you've got a good comms plan with your comms team and your businesses. get engaged with policymakers as well. You know, we've talked externally to UK governments, the EU Council to talk about NaviLens and people's basic right to access products information. And we've got a lot of strong support from those guys, and they, you know, ask us what sort of policy changes do we need and stuff like that. So we're in there, we're talking to governments, and that's ultimately where it's got to come from, isn't it? You know, as part of regulation, as much as we as brands collectively can adopt NaviLens and try and push uphill, it really needs support from legislation to make it mandatory and a basic requirement.
Yeah, definitely a basic requirement. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we touched on it. I think I probably strayed you off, but what about that experience when you're inside in terms of trying to keep brand consistency? What's the kind of thought process you went through there, and what kind of options are there to be able to have any type of brand consistency in there?
Yeah, so it's really, really customizable. I say once, you know, obviously everything's about data. You talk to anybody in IT and they tell you about the quality of data, basically depends on the experience you're going to get on the other side. Now, for us, we were in a great position that our data is all in a sort of PLM system, and we can publish that via connections into NaviLens's database, and that's how it works. So each NaviLens code has got a unique ID, and we link that to our GTINs, and we push the data across and all that techie sort of stuff. But actually then the actual format of the app itself is really between you and NaviLens as to how you want it to look, and the augmented reality experiences as well. So there is, and I'll plug this one because we're really proud of this development, was the AR experience that we've got with the NaviLens Go app, which we developed with the NaviLens team. So that gives us the ability to publish the allergens or the dietary or religious compliance of the product as well at a very, very quick glance without having to get too close to the product or anything like that. But yeah, we created a template with NaviLens for the app to say, well, this is how we'd like the text to be displayed. And when you're thinking about these sort of reference intakes on the front of pack, how should they be displayed, and the nutrition table. And also, you know, that there is that significant difference between the NaviLens and NaviLens Go app, that in the NaviLens experience, you're communicating to a blind person. So you may want to put a description of the actual product as well, to say, oh, this is a yellow box with a bag inside, and you open it from the top and stuff like that. So you can provide a lot of sort of written audio descriptions in there as well as the functional thing to say, oh yeah, it's got 4.3 grams of fiber and whatever, all these kind of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so you've got quite a lot of ability there.
And you can brand it with your brand logos, your Kellogg's logo, Cocoa Pops logo, make it yellow, make it blue, whatever, all that kind of stuff.
David Holiday is asking, Steve, do you see any scope for combining NaviLens with GS1 Digital Link to have a single code per package?
Yes, I do. It's something that we've looked into briefly. Obviously, Digital Link is a little bit further down the line into what, 2027, I think, is the sort of launch.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know that NaviLens themselves are actively talking with GS1 globally, not just at sort of European or Spanish level. So they're absolutely all over that side of things as well.
Brilliant. Stephen Shaw asks, well, he says, great session. Did you ever consider accessible AQR codes?
I'm going to say no, because I don't know what they are. And I like to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, honesty is good.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
AQR codes. I've never heard of an AQR code. There you go. Every day's a school day. I'm going to look that up straight after this event.
There we go. There we go. Stephen also asked City or United, which is probably one you do know the answer to.
I definitely know the answer to that, and I'm a blue. Yeah.
All right. So going back now to kind of the future, What do you think? There's, I mean, obviously the GTIN GS1, sorry, movement there. Perhaps some think around what NaviLens are going to do in their technology. But moving aside from NaviLens, what's the Kellanova future plans or aspirations for accessible packaging?
Yeah, so like I said, my dream is wide scale adoption across all brands, or as many brands as possible. It's not restricted to food and beverage companies. You know, we mentioned the use case for pharmaceuticals, and obviously you'll see NaviLens talking actively about the work they're doing in navigation and travel and stuff like that. They've got them stuck on trams in Victoria, Australia now, and all sorts of things. Policy change is really important. I think we've still got to push for that.
Yeah.
And advocate for that with the EU. I know we've got a session with the EU coming up this year. But you know, we've just got to constantly analyze the data and see which countries are getting the scans, and work closely with our comms teams and local charities in those countries to keep promoting NaviLens. And we keep pushing the boundaries of the app as well. So I keep saying it, I'll say it again. NaviLens are an amazing partner to work with. You know, we will go to them and say, what about this? Can we get it to do this? And because they're a relatively small and agile software company, effectively, they will just go, all right, well, we can do this, we can do that sort of thing. And between us, we work out a great solution. And it's rapidly tested and launched. And yeah, we've got ambitions to provide more information through the code. You know, when you think about recycling information, that may have been touched on in one of the questions, I think, wasn't it, in the chat? But recycling information is, of course, a complex area because of the differences in countries, and even within countries as well. Locales can be different in terms of their local authorities. So can we use geolocation in combining with the NaviLens information to say, okay, if I'm scanning it in the UK, I'm going to get this information because I know the product is made of cardboard and things like that. But if I'm in France, I might get a different bin color to stick it in, or this information. So yeah, how do we combine that geolocation scanning to deliver that sort of recycling information? That's an important thing for us to look at. The other one I would call out is the sort of best before information as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because that's obviously very specific to the actual packaging that's been produced on that day. And a consumer will want that sort of best before, especially if it's a perishable product. Now, our products tend to have a long shelf life, which is good for us. But you know, it would be great if other brands that have got a shorter shelf life can have access to print NaviLens as well. And I guess this is where digital print comes into play as well. The ability for us to produce a code that's got the use by date embedded in it, and you're printing it at the same time as you're packing the food as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's an interesting session we've got later on with Thomas from Coing & Burr. That's at 15:45, and he's talking about variable printing. And I think, yeah, there's a really great use case there. Domino actually has a really great use case of putting that kind of digital print on there, which then actually has dynamic pricing based on that expiry date. So changing the price depending how close you are to the expiry date.
Yeah, no, super powerful. And that's another passion of mine, digital print. So I'll be tuning in for that.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff there. We've had somebody come back as well, who I think are trying to help us with the AQR codes piece. So AQR codes is a comment rather than a question, but AQR codes are not as good in for shopping independently as NaviLens. It only tells the user the category from afar, so not as helpful. It doesn't lock the product in space when trying to navigate towards it. NaviLens also supports QR codes for consumers to scan without the app, as you said before. And importantly, we're designed for blind and visually impaired consumers first. So little bit of comments there to help you answer that question. I assume you agree with all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, as we're wrapping up the session, I guess one of my questions one of my comments or questions to you would be, for anybody who's considering to doing something similar, and we know that you definitely think that they should be, what advice or recommendations would you offer based on, you know, your experience? What do you think they should keep in mind? Obviously, you're going to say go
Yeah.
chat to NaviLens, but what should they keep in mind? Is there any kind of stakeholders within the business that they should be speaking to? What do you think is your best advice there?
Yeah, and the stakeholder management is absolutely key to it as well. So if you can get buy-in from the highest person in your organization first, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
As most things are within a brand, to be honest. But you know, if you can align it to your brand's purpose, that makes it a very easy selling as well. And you know, I would say, you know, considering the amount of money that brands spend, it's a fairly small investment and thing to do. What I would say, and the advice would be to start small. So maybe just pick one brand or one SKU and do what we did, and that's, you know, create one pack, maybe target that on a specific day, like World Sight Day that we did as well. And you know, you can print 10,000 units or something like that. Do it really small. Test and learn, understand what it takes from a data perspective, and you know, how you're going to get that data to NaviLens. Have you got a sort of PIM system that you can use an API to pass the information across, or are you going to be using Excel and Word documents? And obviously you would start small with the sort of manual transfer of data, but think about how you'd scale that up. And how you make it sort of an autonomous, automated process as well. So that data feed is just happening between machine to machine every night, sort of thing, and it's not taking up vast amounts of resource, because for us it pretty much runs itself. There's a kind of a monthly eye that we pass over it to make sure everything in terms of the data is syncing correctly and stuff like that. But it just works. It's great because we've got that sort of data structure to be able to make it work. But yeah, start small, do the sort of crawl, walk, run sort of analogy. You know, we did the one pack first, then we moved to cereal, then it's working on cereal, so then we expanded it across wholesome snacks and then onto Pringles as well. So yeah, do that, do the test and learn, and also listen to the consumers as well. Listen to that feedback you're getting, because you can make tweaks to the template, you know, if people are saying, well, it doesn't really read right, or it doesn't read right in Dutch, or these kind of things, you know, you can, the beauty of it being digital is you can tweak it pretty quick, you know. So it's great. But yeah, understand how it's been received, and you know, make sure you've got that good comms plan as well, and support of local charities like the RNIB. Because they're powerful voices in markets, and they can, you know, give you a lot of publicity and get your message out there that you're there to support their members. And influencers as well. You know, we tend not to seek influencers. We prefer, you know, this sort of user-generated content, because that is super powerful, and emotional as well. It's authentic. I encourage everybody to go and search for Lucy Edwards' YouTube video of her experience with NaviLens, which she did completely off her own back, nothing to do with us. Lucy Edwards is a blind blogger. If you search YouTube for Lucy Edwards and Kellogg's, you'll probably find the video. But it's a heartwarming, for me personally, you know, one of those tingly moments where you think, actually, I'm making an impact here. We're making people's lives better. We're producing a product that then gives them the independence to shop on their own, which is an incredibly powerful thing to do. And shouldn't be underestimated. You know, we spend a lot of money with brands putting messages and claims on packs, but actually this is having real value and making a difference to people's lives.
Yeah, and I love the fact that that's the real element behind this. It's not, oh, let's quickly do this to make a quick buck. This is actually trying to, and I've spoken to Javier from NaviLens as well, and that really is his passion, which is about helping visually impaired to be able to lead a better life. I mean, that really is what it is, and that really does shine through what you're saying as well. And you know, Kellanova and Kellogg's in terms of their kind of brand values, and I think that makes a huge difference.
It does.
Yeah. And how did you kind of set that success level? Because what you're talking about, of course, is start small, make sure you get stakeholder, try and get influence and groups who are, you know, part of the blind community to support you, which I think is fantastic advice. But what about kind of setting that, whether it's a success or not?
I think for us, it was, you know, when we'd made that sort of we did the first pack and we got a lot of traffic, obviously, that was saying, this is great, this is wonderful, you should do it across more, it should be on every piece of packaging. That just creates its own business case. You know, we don't have to go and sell it to leadership, because leadership are going, wow, look at this, you got 229 million media impressions off the back of this. This is huge. You know, I say it just sells itself once the momentum gets going, and you start to receive this positive feedback, and it's just 100% positive sentiment. It just sells itself. The business will know that it's the right thing to do. I encourage everyone. I'm sure the guys at P&G are feeling the same sort of love that they get from their brands that they're applying NaviLens to as well now. You know, it's just a great thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, David Pittman has just found the Lucy Edwards video and posted the link, the YouTube link.
Wonderful.
There.
Thank you, David.
So that's fantastic. Thank you, David. Very helpful, useful. Paul Franklin from Domino's also saying, yes, we can have an offline chat about comparable technologies for their variable data printing. They've got some fantastic case studies, as I said, especially around dynamic pricing as well. So lots of really good comments. I think it's been a fantastic session, Steve. It's been really, really interesting chatting with you. I'm pretty sure everyone's learned something. I've learned quite a few things, and we've already had a few conversations. So I'm pretty sure everyone in the audience has as well. It's really nice to be able to use this or think of connected packaging with this use case, where we can be working towards a future around accessibility, inclusivity, as part of the forefront, really, I suppose, of what you're doing in terms of packaging design for accessibility. So thank you so much, Steve. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jenny. Really appreciate it. And yeah, if anybody wants to stalk me on LinkedIn, I will gladly accept your requests, and we can talk and share our experience with NaviLens with you. Yeah, let's get the movement going.
Great stuff. And of course, if anybody wants me to connect you with Steve, because you can't find him, maybe I can also help with that. So thank you so much, Steve. Really, really great to have you with us. All right. So thank you. That enables us to move to the introduction for our next session. We'll be back in just over 5 minutes, and we're going to be talking to Stefan Casey. He's globally responsible for packaging and digital transformation of the confectionery business for Nestle. So definitely you need to stay glued to your seats. Steve, you probably don't want to miss it either. So
he's a good guy, Stefan. I know him. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that chat. So we'll be back very shortly with that. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this short break. Thank you so much, Steve. Speak to you later.
Thank you.